friends. Welcome to kind of the first official episode of the video series that I am doing, Mental Health Chat. For those of you who might not have seen the introduction video that I did talking about this video series, I just want to be able to make some videos and have some conversations about issues relating to mental health. And just as a disclaimer, I am not a mental health professional. These are just kind of my opinions and experiences and things. If you feel like you are a danger to yourself or to others, please pause this video. I'm going to put some links to some resources in this video description, and please talk to somebody that would be able to help you. But on that first video, I asked for any topics and things that you guys wanted to discuss or hear me talk about, and a lot of people said kind of how I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, so I figured I would talk about that in this video. When I was a freshman in college, I was 18. I had just turned 18 and was going to a big state school that a lot of people from my high school were attending, including my high school boyfriend. And it was not one of these situations that we purposely went to the same school. It was just, it's a really great school and we both got in, so we just both happened to be attending the same university. And a lot of our mutual friends were also at the school, and so it was a really exciting time, kind of the end of senior year and that summer, knowing that we were all going to be going to the same college and just excited to kind of start the next chapter of life. But as is kind of common to happen during freshman year of college, you kind of realize once you get to college that there is a whole world out there that you had not known about necessarily before. And so he ended up wanting to split up. I was not happy about that decision. That was a really hard experience. That happened days after we got to college. So that was kind of the note that I started my college on. And I had just a really hard time adjusting. I think I probably would have had a hard time adjusting either way because it is such a big change. I, made friends and I got involved in a sorority and met some amazing people through that. And it got to the point that even though these good things were happening, I was still just so intensely down and sad. I was like, this is not even necessarily about this breakup anymore. It's just this feeling that I can't seem to shake. I think symptoms, as far as emotionally, just crying a lot. I lost a lot of weight, and it was February that I went to the university medical center because I think I might have thought I had a cold or something. I remember going in and sitting down, and he started talking to me, the doctor did, and it just kind of started the conversation. And he said, I want to refer you up to the mental health center and have you speak with someone there. And I wouldn't say that I was necessarily resistant to it. I went home and I did a lot of research, and it really kind of seemed to make some sense and to fit the bill. I actually was about to go to California with my dad. My dad is involved in some music stuff, and he is a member of the Recording Academy, and he had gotten us tickets to be able to go out to LA to the Grammys that year. So I was super excited about it. It was going to be such a nice trip. But I remember one of the things that they wanted you to do if you were to make an appointment at the mental health center was they wanted you to do kind of a screening where they would ask you some questions. And I got that call, I think it was the day before I was leaving for LA, and I just broke down over the phone. And I remember her asking me, do you feel like you are potentially a danger to yourself? And I'm like, no, I'm gonna be fine. I'm about to go on this amazing trip with my dad. That was hard. I also remember having a moment where a friend of mine and I had a disagreement, and I think that's the closest I've ever been to feeling suicidal. I have never, and I want to make it clear, I've never wanted to harm myself, but I think it was the feeling of like, I'm just exhausted. Like I just don't even, like being alive feels exhausting and I'm just so sad. That was kind of the inspiration for my song 2007, talking about like being in a parking deck and just, you know, having this conversation with a friend of mine that I knew cared about me, and just, you know, they could tell that I was in a really bad place, and they kind of got me out of that bad place. But that was all kind of happening around the same time of like me kind of getting this initial referral over to the mental health center and having that phone screening and then having that incident happen. So by the time I got to the mental health center and started kind of going over what my symptoms were and everything, it was very clear that I was having issues with depression and anxiety. And the interesting part is, like, looking back, I can absolutely look at times in my life that I can attribute to that depression and anxiety. Certain times in my life that, you know, I just got down and just like really had a hard time getting back up. In my 8th grade year, I was bullied a lot. And, you know, I definitely think that that was a kind of depressive time of my life. My senior year of high school, I was sick a lot. I had mono and a whole host of other like issues that they couldn't figure out what was going on. I mean, I remember getting Saturday school for something completely stupid that I will maintain to this day was totally stupid and unjustified. But it was really like not a big deal. I was already in, you know, accepted into college. It's not like that was going to like go on a permanent record or prevent me from having any kind of like success or whatever. But just getting Saturday school, I found out in the morning and literally was still crying about it by the end of the day. And you look back and it's like, that's such a disproportionate way to react to something like that. And I would have incidences where I was like, there was one weekend that I was going home. I am somebody that is just so terrible with directions. It does not matter how many times I can drive to a place, I will still end up getting, you know, going the wrong way. It was before GPS. So I was just relying on like memory and prayer, and I got it wrong, and I ended up like completely out of the way, and I, you know, called my mom and was just like so upset about it. And I mean, you know, again, another one of these times where the reaction that I was physically having and like mentally having to what the situation was didn't fit. So there were clues along the way that we just never kind of looked at it as something that could potentially be related to mental health. It was just kind of like, you know, like, oh yeah, like going through these phases and going through these funks or whatever. And the interesting thing I think is even when I was able to recognize pretty quickly on that, like, yeah, like I definitely have some issues with depression and definitely some issues with anxiety. I think my initial feeling about it was embarrassment. I didn't necessarily want to tell my friends that I was going through that, or that was kind of the diagnosis. And I was really scared to tell my parents. I was afraid that they would be judgmental. I was just afraid that everybody in my life, which is stupid because those are the people that care about you the most, I was afraid they would judge me, or they would think that I was overreacting. I think that was what I was afraid of, is that they would say like, you know, well, it's dramatic of you to feel like you need to take some kind of medication, like, you know, because you're having this issue. I don't know that I ever really had any reservations about taking medication. I think I wanted to know kind of what I was getting myself into. And, you know, this is a whole different video that I want to do as far as my journey to finding the right medication, because I've been through a lot. I think my biggest thing was what other people would think, which is sad, because you should never not do something that you know is going to be beneficial for you and beneficial for your health. Because you're worried about what other people think. I am very fortunate that the people that I, you know, am closest to, like my family and, you know, my husband eventually when I met him. But by the time I met him, I was like, it was just kind of like, yeah, like I take medication because I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. Like, you know, say something. I'm fortunate that, you know, I have very supportive people in my life, and I know that there are people that are not as lucky as that. But it was the right call. You know, it was the right decision for me. I can absolutely tell if I've like missed some days, like I fundamentally feel different, which I want to talk about that in a separate video of like what my like what it looks like on me today, as far as like, you know, if I have like an episode, like what that feels like. But yeah, I mean, I'm very proud of myself, because it was not an easy thing to do, to admit that there was an issue, but it has made my life better, and it has made my mental state better, and you know, I'm better equipped to be able to recognize and handle when I'm having a tough time. So yeah, so that is kind of the origin story of my diagnosis. So again, with these videos, you know, I'd love to hear your comments about, you know, what your story might be, or anything that you would like to hear me talk about, whether it's about me personally, just any like subjects having to do with mental health. I really want to take the time to try and talk to some like professionals, and maybe even sit down and film like a discussion with them on some of the areas of mental health that I'm not as familiar with. But I would love to see what you guys would like out of this kind of series that I'm doing. Love you guys, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.